uh, keep your comments close to 3 minutes as possible. We have a timer clock right here. And then we will go ahead with the county input on this. First, we have Austin Hanson, is the planning director. Kind of give us some background on the planning commission and the land use code. Thank you, Austin.
Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate your presence here. My name is Austin Hanson. I am the Director of Development for Delta County. The adoption of the 2024 Land Use Code is a big step forward. We're making sure that as Delta County grows, it does so in a way that is smart and keeps the agricultural community at its heart. The transition from the 2021 to the 2024 Land Use Code in Delta represents a pivotal shift towards embracing sustainable development, refining zoning practices, and enhancing the regulatory clarity to better serve the community's evolving needs. This comprehensive update reflects a deliberate effort to align the county's growth strategy with the broader objectives outlined in the 2018 Delta County Master Plan, ensuring that development not only protects our agricultural heritage, but also safeguards our natural resources. We're reshaping our approach to development. The areas once designated as urban growth areas are now transitioning to residential 1 zones. This means we're focusing on creating more space for everyone with lot sizes that offer a blend of community feel and private space. One of the cornerstone changes in this update is the strategic rezoning of the urban growth areas, the UGA, to residential 1. This move is emblematic of Delta County's commitment to creating more defined residential spaces that cater to the needs of its inhabitants while preserving the character and environmental integrity of the area. By adjusting the minimum lot sizes, the county aims to foster a more organized residential landscape, promoting development that is responsible and in harmony with the community's vision for growth. All these changes align with our master plan, ensuring that every step we take is for the health, safety, and welfare of everyone in Delta County. It's about making sure our future is as bright as it can be. The adoption of the 2024 Land Use Code, complete with its amended zoning maps, marks a significant milestone in Delta County's planning history. This adoption is not merely a procedural update. It represents a fundamental rethinking of how land use is governed and guided within the county. By ensuring that these changes are consistent with the Delta County Master Plan, the updates underscore a commitment to strategic planned development that prioritizes public health, safety, welfare, and the protection of the natural resources and Delta County's agricultural legacy. We're also cleaning house a bit by removing some outdated resolutions. This is kind of like clearing out old, unused tools from a toolbox to make room for new ones that will benefit and fit our needs today. For example, we're updating how we handle street plans in large subdivisions and embracing renewable development. The decision to vacate specific resolutions included those related to street plans in large subdivisions and renewable energy moratoriums, signals a move towards a more streamlined and efficient regulatory framework. These actions demonstrate the county's responsiveness to evolving development standards and environmental considerations, removing outdated impediments to progress and incorporating modern standards for renewable energy facilities directly into the land use code. This approach not only simplifies the regulatory landscape, but also promotes the adoption of technologies and practices that we seek in this area, aligning with broader sustainability goals of the state and the country at large. With new zones like agricultural 2.5 and residential 1 acre, we're tailoring our land use to better fit the community's needs, whether it's farming or building homes, we're making sure that there's a place for everyone. The introduction of the new zoning designations, such as agriculture 2.5 and residential 1, along with revisions to the land use matrix, exemplifies the county's adaptive approach to zoning. These changes reflect a deep understanding of the unique characteristics and needs of Delta County, offering a more tailored zoning option that caters to the various development goals by individuals and businesses. By providing clear, updated guidelines on permitted uses and development standards, these zoning updates aim to facilitate balanced growth that respects the county's agricultural heritage, natural landscapes, and residential aspirations. We've taken a close look at specific uses of land, from how we can use recreational vehicles as homes to defining what makes a home business. It's all about clarity, making sure that everyone understands what's allowed and ensuring that those uses benefit our community. Furthermore, the detailed revision of regulations for specific uses, such as recreational vehicles as dwelling units, special events, home businesses, and accessory dwelling units, address practical concerns and emerging trends in land use. These updates clarify and refine the county's stance on a range of development scenarios, providing greater flexibility and certainty for property owners and developers. By delineating these conditions under which certain uses are permitted, the county ensures that the development is both manageable and in line with community standards. Lastly, we've streamlined how we review and approve new developments. This means less red tape and more doing. Whether it's a new home, a business, or a community project, we're making the process smoother and more straightforward. Overall, the transition to the 2024 Land Use Code is a testament to Delta County's proactive and thoughtful approach to planning and development. It reflects a comprehensive effort to update and refine the regulatory framework governing land use, with a keen eye on sustainability, community well-being, and the dynamic needs of Delta County residents. This update is not just about regulatory changes. It's about setting a foundation for future growth that is inclusive and reflective of the collective vision of the Delta County community. Thank you very much for listening to my spiel. And with that, I will turn it over to the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Commissioner Coons, you'd like some opening remarks?
Thank you, Commissioner. If anybody knows me, they know that I like presidential quotes, and I'd like to open tonight with one. Effort and courage are not enough without purpose and direction. That's from John F. Kennedy, our 35th president. This new land use code is purpose and direction for Delta County, developed by Delta County citizens. I want to thank a lot of people, and I'm going to make it short. I want to thank the Planning Commission for their many years of work. We got several of them here tonight. I want to thank our planning department for their tireless efforts to get us to where we are tonight, our Delta County staff, and most importantly, the Delta County citizens, all those who participate, provide thoughtful comments, good insights, and for showing up here tonight. One of my goals for this land use code revision was to emphasize personal responsibility and accountability, empower our landowners to pursue their dreams, provide certainty for those investing in Delta County, and to build a framework for responsible development for future generations. I'm glad to see everybody here tonight, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Supis?
All right, good evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming out here tonight. Glad to see a participating constituency. It means things are working. I want to kind of, take everything in reverse and kind of remember where we started from and how we got where we're at. I've had a lot of people that have come to me and say we need to go back to when we didn't have land use codes. Well, that was like a really, really long time ago. That wasn't just recent history. So subdivision regulations were adopted in 1998, 2008. Subdivision regulations were updated in 2012, again updated 2000. In the year 2000, specific development regulations were adopted. In 2003, they amended those regulations. And then in 2019, the county adopted amended Delta County regulations for specific development. Part of what brought us here was the desire to get away from specific development. Specific development led to a process that you had to ask your neighbors for permission. It was an elongated process to get things done. You had to add an extra couple months of meetings to develop, to use your property. So this was not only to help protect the citizens, but also to let the people know that wanted to come in and develop property, what the rules were going to be up front. So there weren't any surprises. We have worked very hard here to develop a good set of regulations. I would venture that this set of land use codes is one of the most lenient in the state of Colorado. As you know, the Planning Commission brought us a revision a couple years ago. We denied that revision. The commissioners decided to take it on ourselves, and we have spent many, many hours of meetings redeveloping this code. We've had a number of you in this room that have sat through those meetings. Eli Wolcott, he and I have sat down, we've had dozens of hours of meetings discussing this with his group. I feel like we have done our due diligence. I also saying that know that we're not going to make everybody happy. Land use codes will never make everybody happy. We've got people in this county that really truly want anarchy. We've got people in this county that have told me personally that they want more freedoms for their property, but they want to control their neighbor more. It's true. It's out there. So I just want to let everybody know that this was not just a foolhardy exercise. We took this incredibly serious. We spent a lot of time. Chris Crawford's here. Thank you, Chris. The group of the Delta County surveyors met with us several times also to help us fix some of the parts of the code that they felt were out of line with state statutes. And I feel like the parts that we changed at their recommendation made this code better. This code is going to be easier for property rights. It's going to be easier for you to develop. It's going to give you clarity on what is an allowed right. Because we still have to be able to make sure that the neighbor understands what his rights are also. I've said it before, you've heard me say it probably, that if people got along all the time, we wouldn't have a need for a land use code. But that doesn't happen. Every rule in here probably started because two neighbors couldn't get along. So this is also to help make sure that we can keep peace in those neighborhoods. So everybody understands what the ground rules are and we can live by those ground rules. Once again, it's not perfect. It'll never be perfect because no two pieces of property in this county are the same. But we had to do our best to come up with a uniform code that could provide protection to all residents in the county. So thank you very much for coming again.
Thank you. Each year in the legislature, there's a bill that is introduced for uniform land use codes throughout the state. If we as a county don't have land use codes, then we have a great chance of Boulder and Denver making land use codes for us. And I think we all know how that will go. When I was younger and growing up, and grew up around some old cowboys, they said, I don't care what you do on your land, just don't steal my water. Well, that was what was happening. The next thing you know, there was human waste floating down the ditch. So There is a need for land use codes. We will go ahead and get started underway. Again, make your comments close to 3 minutes as you can. And the timer's right up here where you can see. You'll come up to this podium. If you'd like to sign up to talk, you can sign up back there. We've got a list here. And Wendell, who's the first one?
I'm going to call out the first three names. Sharon Patterson, Ewelina Bajda, Lysandra Barley. Please come join us up front. I've got Adam Pittman and 4 DCC members on deck.
Good evening.
Is that on?
Is it on?
Yep, it's on.
It's on.
Mhm.
It's just not directed directly. This is going to be a short comment because all I have to really say is watching these meetings and participating in the meetings, a lot of it is leading to conflict or compromise, neither of which is really the perfect solution. And just to recommend, like what y'all are saying, is you want to do something on your property, first, get the consensus of your neighbors. That's where it starts, with your neighbors first, if that's possible, and go from there. That's all I have to say, really. I'm considering moving from Paonia out to the county, just to say where my interests lie. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Ewelina?
We'll get the timer reset here, Evelina.
Primary.
It reset twice.
It ain't working.
You ready for me?
Go ahead. It's
Okay. My name is Evelina and I live in Crawford. The commissioners are creating a problem by bringing a lengthy, overly complicated and unnecessary regulations, such as this land use code. These restrictions don't solve any problems. They just divide our community or go against our traditional values. We do not usually make people better off by reducing their alternatives. Regulatory solutions harm people, harm their ability to grow, to build, to do things. In addition, these mandates work through enforcement. The county won't tell you what the interpretation of the law is, or gives you a different explanation on various occasions. So you have to go to court to figure out what regulation is in each specific situation. And let me remind you that even 9 Ivy League trained Supreme Court justices do not agree on how to interpret the Constitution, let alone all the laws and regulations passed at the federal, state, and local level. Let's call it for what it is. You are building a big monopoly machine, which will inadvertently fail at some point for some reason or another, and your only solution will be to get more money and more power. How convenient. This is a scam. It's a fraud. When we notice this dilemma and point it out to you, you point your fingers to the state government, the Democrats in Denver, and the conversation about solving anything ends. If you just woke up, fill in a box or an oval every few years doesn't do anything. Commissioners, are you not personally responsible? It's true, the machine out there is even bigger. The interest rates, property taxes, inflation from casually printing money, they are all rising. So naturally, we are looking how to make more money to pay for everything. We open more Airbnbs, subdivide our family land, sell off irrigation water, etc. And the government is looking at us and says, see, we have to put in more regulations because you guys don't know how to play nice. But the problem, the root cause of these problems are your responsibility. By putting in this land use code, you are putting in mandates restricting natural, sensible, balanced growth based on true demand and supply and based on honest, uncoerced personal agreements. The job of a local government if there is to be one at this point, should be to protect individual rights, buffering us from the insanity of the current world. So what is the solution? You have it right here. You just need to recognize your community's solutions. Community is the solution to the problem. We don't have all the answers, but we have a variety of ideas. The difference between notions of the county and our notions is that our ideas don't become laws. Every so-called law enacted by politicians is a command backed by a threat of violence against those who disobey. Our community solutions come from cooperations, not coercion. And there's more. You have complete immunity. How often do politicians go to jail for war crimes? How often do they get punished for misusing our taxes and have to personally give the money back to the people? The markets are unstable, but offer an illusion of windfall. Meanwhile, it's just boom and bust cycles. How long are we going to operate within those conditions instead of investing in something more stable? Local markets and community. Let me be clear, I'm not asking for handouts, a ton of money forcibly taken from others through involuntary taxes. I am telling you to get out of our way. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And you'd state your name for the record, please.
My name is Lysandra Barley in Paonia. I'm a business owner and employer. Thank you for hearing us this evening. I shall start with a little bit of chapter and verse. Right off the bat is cottage industry, chapter 2, section 3F, now called home business. There is a slight omission that, or a specificity that it's restricted to the dwelling. And I think this is maybe just an oversight, but it would be great to see it amended in this code. In chapter 13, language of monitoring, there's no mention of drones. And with that technology, the ubiquity of that technology, it would be very nice to see some statement in there that it's required, landowner permission is required to ensure that that doesn't occur 10 years down the road. Broader brushstroke concerns I have, affordable housing. I found an interesting article with the Colorado Law Review. The consensus is generally that increased housing construction lowers housing costs. About 1 million people have moved to Colorado in the past decade, and housing construction has not kept pace. There were less than 250,000 homes built, a decline in about 40% from the decade prior. And yet only 20% of US households, and I'm sorry, they didn't give the Colorado number for that, but 20% of households comprise a nuclear family, but the vast majority are others, roommates, different situations. And I think our this land use code could better foster a variety of housing options and in that interest for people. And in that vein, we don't want to continue gentrifying this county. Things like, I was disappointed to see that the discussion of short-term rentals, Airbnb, VRBO, are nowhere mentioned in the code. That is one of the greatest threats to affordable housing. One of the greatest reasons, one big reason that I think property values are increasing, taxes are increasing, locals are being pushed out, and we're being gentrified. That is and of course it also fuels tourism recreation, which is a great source of income, but it's also extractive, just like oil and gas, any other industry. Do we want that to be our bread and butter? We as a community can decide that, but it drives up property values, and I think we can disincentivize short-term rentals in this county and keep working locals here and keep property affordable here. And then in that vein, also things like requiring more engineered studies, more civil infractions, and more costly appeals processes harm locals who are here, who are working multiple jobs, running a farm, cottage industry, that sort of thing. I would like to not rush. I know you've got years on this. I appreciate how much effort you have into it. I think we're well on our way, but I still think it needs a little more time, as this is a community rights issue, and we need code, but we also need to emphasize local control. I think the area of the APCs would be a great thing to bring back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've got Adam Pittman and 4 from Delta County, is it DCC? So if you guys could join us over here. Thank you. On deck, we have Dave Knutson, Cynthia O'Neill, and Michael Gettens.
Hi, my name is Eli Wolcott. I was born and raised on a farm outside of Paonia, Colorado. I know a lot of you guys. I've spent the last 6 or so years working extensively on land use issues with you here in Delta County. And I'm here as part of the Delta County Coalition, or DCC, a nonpartisan organization established by residents of Delta County concerned about the county land use code, land use freedoms, and protecting the rural quality of life and agriculture in Delta County. The Delta County Coalition includes around 1,400 constituents from all over the county and from all walks of life. We invite everyone to learn more about our organization and see details of our work at deltacountycoalition.org. I'd like to thank all of the commissioners here tonight and the staff, and especially Commissioner Supez here, for all of your efforts to protect private property rights, support county farmers and ranchers, and work to prevent harmful overregulation in Delta County. We thank you, commissioners, and urge you to again vote no on the current proposed land use code revisions. Working together over the last year, and we've worked extensively together, many issues have been resolved and many problems averted, and we thank you again for that. But unfortunately, many of the same issues brought forward by the community and the DCC a year ago still remain. And many of the solutions and changes that you yourselves approved during the work sessions over the summer were not included in the final drafts, to our surprise. In addition, the updated zoning maps were not included in the draft to the Planning Commission that the PC voted down in December. Adding the zoning maps after the Planning Commission review represents a significant change to the document, and under state statutes, any significant change requires resubmission to the Planning Commission for review by the PC and the public before the VOCC votes on the land use code. Please take the time to get this right. Please take the time to develop a code that really works for Delta County and the farmers, ranchers, business owners, and residents that live here. Again, we appreciate your efforts. The draft code, though, in its current form, would be detrimental in many ways and threaten the livelihoods and the way of life for a large number of county residents and threaten the legacy of Delta County. As you all know, we've been submitting and meeting with you often weekly for dozens and dozens of hours with detailed, constructive comments with specific issues, page citations, and full details in writing and email. I again appreciate all of your time and meeting with us. And I have here for you now a brief summary of some of those remaining issues that we look forward to working together with you to solve. On page 33, changes to allowed by right and permitted use to limited use for almost 50 types of land uses, including additional dwellings or homes. This is perhaps the most controversial change in the proposed revision and would impact many landowner rights that were protected as exempt from regulation entirely for 2 decades under the specific development regulations between 2000 and 2021, and were to be enshrined as allowed by right under the 2021 Land Use Code and the county and on the county website. I'll try to wrap this up quickly. This is not just semantics, as the changes impose 3+ chapters of standards, fines, potential foreclosures, et cetera, on these uses that were once allowed by right, and challenges the basic culture of freedom in Delta County versus asking the government for permission. Again, we do recognize that improvements were made, but I think we have a ways to go. Very quickly, Table 2B would require permits and restrictions for small businesses and light industry without retail, which are currently allowed by right. Page 23 removes exemptions from approval language for the remaining allowed by right uses, mostly agriculture, even after the other almost 50 uses have been changed to limited use permits. This is an affront to the basic enshrined allowed by right category as a whole. Page 91 would require that new homes in the very large growth areas must purchase expensive municipal or water company water taps, which now often cost over $30,000. Pitkin Mesa now is $34,000, even if they already have a permitted well, spring, or other water rights. Again, improvements have been made here, but we have a ways to go. In conclusion, these are just a few of the items we have submitted. Again, please visit deltacountycoalition.org for a full list of issues and citations, and I'm happy to leave with you here a printed copy. And we do look forward to continuing working together to make Delta County a better place. And I thank you again for all of your efforts.
Hello, my name's Steve Wolcott. I live outside of Paonia on a farm where I've lived for 53 years. I'm just going to keep going down the list here of issues. In Table 2B, farm worker housing, which are additional residences, were also changed from A to L in Table 2B by staff, despite being designated as A, allowed by the BOCC at the work session in June. CH7, many instances of land uses being approved with conditions which could allow staff or planning commission to impose arbitrary or never before heard of conditions. This should be corrected to reflect the intent of approved in advance with applicable conditions of this code. Page 39, CH4, RV restrictions, imposes unnecessary new restrictions on RV category dwellings, including reducing the amount of time someone can live in an RV without full utilities, which includes tiny homes, yurts, and in some cases, mobile homes. This would likely have a negative impact on affordable housing, events and tourism, farms and ranches, farm worker housing, and more. Prior to the 2021 code, the only restrictions were the Colorado Health Department rules, which covered all sewage concerns. CH7, Section 1, under allowed uses, would have the county duplicate and enforce state and federal codes like state electrical inspections and plumbing permits, even for uses allowed by right, and unnecessarily double red tape and fees. The county should maintain local control and local protection of land use. P18, permits voided later for county mistakes. Current language can result in an approved permit later being voided because of mistakes on the part of the county and either forced removal of the previously permitted home or permitted use or expensive lawsuits for landowner and taxpayers. CH13, page 198, active compliance would change the county's long-standing signed complaints-based compliance system to one of active compliance, which would allow for county officials, employees, and compliance officers to proactively drive around the county to investigate and pursue violations without a complaint being filed. Or for the compliance officer to write up his own complaints, which is just proactive compliance under a different name. CH13, P195, fines. The proposed revision lacks provisions to ensure proper due process, warnings, appeals, or oversight. Office procedures outline some of these items, but could change at any moment and need to be codified to require public hearing prior to change. The county to date has never issued a fine and does not currently have the legal framework to issue fines for land use without a new addition to the land use code. Provisions for fines were recently added to the junk rubbish ordinance without much public notice. Large numbers of residents question the need to add fines under the land use code.
Mr. Walcott, if you could wrap it up.
All right. This process to add fines was initiated and championed by the compliance officer. Many residents feel strongly that it is not the entity that should be driving land use code or regulations.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ayana White. I live in Delta, and I will be continuing the DCC's comments. Chapter 13, page 196, County Immunity, adds a non-liability clause that claims immunity for Delta County, its employees, and officials from being responsible or liable. Many issues around government liability are already covered by the state Colorado Governmental Immunity Act, and we feel this addition unnecessarily removes the need for professional responsibility. Further, qualified immunity was specifically repealed in the state of Colorado on June 21st, 2020, with Senate Bill SB 217 that was created to prevent abuses by government and protect citizens' rights guaranteed by the Colorado Constitution's Bill of Rights. Special events greatly reduced. Reduces the allowed number of days for special events from 75 days per year to 3 total events, the max duration of an event from 30 days to 7, and reduces the max number of attendees from 500 to 150 without extensive permits and fees. Many assurances were given by the county that events under 500 persons or events in larger acreage parcels with less impact to neighbors would remain designated exempt. These new restrictions would greatly impact the public's right to gather and adversely affect tourism and important economic income to our county. There has not been a clear rationale for this proposed change. Page 47 to 51, additional dwellings. Permits would require limited use permits for additional dwellings. These may include 6 or more engineered studies at a minimum cost of $6,000 to $8,000 each. Additional dwelling compliance introduces confusing limits and extra regulation on additional dwellings. ADU limits would limit accessory dwelling units to 1 per lot, no matter the size or use of the lot, and restricts their size. Hurts availability of affordable housing in Delta County when we need it most without any clear benefit. Chapter 2, Section 4.B6C, traffic impacts, page 60. Traffic studies potentially require a costly traffic study, minimum $6,000 to $8,000 if building a new house, and exactly which standards are applicable is unclear. Expensive traffic studies may deny the right or ability to build a house. Chapter 8, Section 6B1A, page 176, variances greatly restricts variances to the point that exceedingly few people would qualify for one, even though zoning maps are so erroneous that it led to more than 50 residents applying for variances in 2022. The county should recognize that variances are an important part of the process, especially with new regulations and the many unique conditions in Delta County, and make them easy and accessible instead of trying to effectively ban all variances and anything that doesn't fit in a neat box. I will conclude there within my 3 minutes. Thank you so much for hearing our comments.
Thank you, Ms. Watt.
Thank you very much for all the work that the 3 of you have put into this, in addition to staff and especially Eli, who's championed this for many years now. And we all have put so much work, myself included, and so many hours into this. Pardon?
Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Adam Pittman. I'm in Paonia. And, you know, we've come so far, and to just drop it where it is and just for time is, seems it may be a waste. But let me just go ahead and figure, I'll go down through this document that we're reading and pick up on chapter 4, section 2, C2B. Residents most restricts most secondary driveway access points for the properties. BOCC discussed the great importance of allowing secondary access points for wildfire concerns. And this is also needed for larger parcels to avoid impacts to farm, ground, or habitat. Example, don't make farmers tear a new driveway through irrigated farm ground if there's a safe and reasonable second access point instead. Chapter 4, section 4. Allows utility companies to dictate and take extremely large easements from landowners without limitations. No need to insert the word reasonable for easement widths. We have seen utilities companies claim 120-foot wide easements, and the courts revised that to 30-foot as reasonable. The current land use code language would allow utility companies to dictate and take from the landowner any width of easement, and even if completely unreasonable. I think this is unreasonable. Lot width minimums for A20 and A35 are very restrictive. So restrictive, it essentially requires almost all properties to be square shaped, no rectangles, triangles, pie shapes, etc. Page 82, cell towers. Allows many wireless cell tower activities, including 5G, with fairly lax rules, including no public review for towers under 50 feet. We recommend including more community participation in such decisions and requiring public hearings for all new wireless towers, including those under 50 feet. Page 85, Chapter 9, Appeals Due Process. We recommend adding a provision that no members of the Board of Adjustments may be members of the Planning Commission at the same time to assure a checks and balances due process. This just makes sense. Chapter 9, 4B and 5B, appeals for landowners. Limit appeals to 10 or 15-day deadline from current 30 days, which are negatively impact due process. And I'll finish here, although the list does go on, but I do want to just express my my own opinion that we could still tweak this a little bit. There's plenty more things to go over, not to draw it out for another year, but to pass it as is it just doesn't feel right, and it doesn't feel like we're doing our community a favor. If you have any other questions about this, you're welcome to go to the website, deltacountycoalition.org, and I'm sure Eli has plenty of these for you.
Thank you,
Thomas.
Mr.
Thank you very
Pittman.
much.
Dave Knutson, Cynthia O'Neill, and Michael Gettens. On deck, we have Tammy Sandoval, Bob Baxley. I'm gonna guess that's a Jake Dahlman.
Thank you, Commissioners. When my wife and Jill and I first moved to Delta County almost 20 years ago, I used to tell my friends back in Flagstaff that we lived in the only county in Colorado where you could still legally use a VW bus as a septic tank. So on that note, I sure can't match the level of detail and knowledge of the plan from the previous speakers, but I do want to convey my thanks to the commissioners, the planning commissioners, our Delta County staff, and my neighbors in Delta County have been far more engaged than me in participating in this very long, patient, and consistent process. I've attended meetings from way back in the Hotchkiss Fairgrounds sessions and several of the Coffee with Commissioners. This effort isn't the easiest of balances to achieve. I think the intent stated on page 21, and I want to read these, are very solid. Promote the health, general welfare, residents of Delta County, protect the character of existing rural communities, urban communities, and neighborhoods, ensure that developers, subdividers, private property owners provide adequate, safe, and efficient public utilities and public improvements and facilities, including land for public uses, and establish adequate and accurate records for land subdivision. As a rural or small town resident for most of my life, I can see how the lack of a solid plan can really impact property values, health, and public safety. I like the readability of the plan, the flexibility of agricultural land use, ADUs, and residential options. The land use code gives a number of options for dispute resolution administratively by the Board of Adjustment and appeal to the commissioners. The plan helps us as landowners gain some certainty and help protect our property from unregulated uses that could impact our health, safety, and even property values. This is a serious attempt to manage the balance between freedom and responsibility. I support the adoption of this land use code. Thanks for listening. Many of my friends are on the other side of this issue, and I respect and love them nonetheless.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tammy Sandoval, and I live here in Delta. I've lived in this county my entire life. I've lived in this county my entire life. I just started reading through the land use code, and I found quite a few errors that I thought we should probably address. First, I'd like to say I really appreciate the work the Delta County Coalition put together on this, and I happen to agree with every one of their points. First, let's go ahead and start with your executive summary, which is in the beginning of the land use code. The first 2 pages Sorry. There's a couple of disturbing things in here that I've read. First of all, this says allowed uses while exempt from review must meet all applicable regulations from this code and other entities, e.g. state and federal. It's vague as to what entities have a say in those regulations. And I thought that that should be clarified. Zoning districts list uses which are allowed or may be allowed, subject to discretionary permit processes. Discretionary permit processes leave you open to interpretation and discretion, which can work against a landowner and private property rights. The director is undefined or defined in different places as different people. For example, under Chapter 1, the section under development review bodies, section 6, says the director of community development. In other places, they're referred to as the planning director. I think there needs to be some clarification as to which director and what exactly their role is. Secondly, that same director has the ability to correct typographical and punctuational errors within the code, which can change the meaning. If you had the comma in the wrong place, you can actually change the meaning of a section. Additionally, the first chapter, Chapter 1 in Section A, says to ensure that developers, subdividers, and private property owners provide adequate, safe, and efficient public utilities and public improvements and facilities, including land for public uses. Why are private property owners expected to provide land for public uses and under what conditions? It's undefined. Secondly, there's a separation between private property rights and public interests, but that isn't defined either. When we get to Chapter 1, page 22, under number 3, permits issued in conflict with the code. Any permit issued in conflict with the provisions of this code shall be null and void. That's, if a permit's issued, it should stand. The code applies within the unincorporated Delta County. I think B is a typo. Let's see, the effect of termination or approval. Approvals made that terminate pursuant to this become void on the date of termination and no further development approvals or permits may be issued. But this what? This section, this chapter, this code, it's undefined. That's just, I'm up to page 24. I don't think this is ready to pass. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cynthia O'Neill, and I'm from Hotchkiss and Crawford, and also a lot of times over in Cedar Edge. Home is where my horse is, and that's where my horse is. So I'm here to address you and having the authority to be here and doing what you're doing today. On January 12th, 2021, Don Supis took an oath of office for his second term administered by Judge Bo Zerib. This oath was taken using incorrect language and was not filed properly in the Delta County as is necessary pursuit of CRS 2412-101 prior to taking a position of office. Therefore, we hold the position of the District 2 Delta County Commissioner to be a vacant position. On January 10th, 2023, Mike Lane took an oath of office administered by Judge Bo Zerib. This oath was taken using incorrect language was not properly filed in Delta County as it is necessary pursuit of the CRS 2412-101 in order to take office. Therefore, we hold the position of the District 1 County Commissioner to be a vacant office. On January 10th, 2023, Wendell Kuntz took the oath of office administered by Judge Zerib. This oath was taken using incorrect language as what was not properly filed in Delta County as is necessary pursuit of CRS 2412-101 in order to take office. Therefore, we hold that position in the District 3 County Commissioners to be vacant. We have documented of these oaths of office, which are presently found at the courthouse with no filing stamp or bond information. We will not accept action on the part of an unlawful commission to act as our governing body. We demand proof of your timely filed oaths of office and the required bonds pursuit of CRS 30-10-313. Without these things, you are acting without the authority to do so, and you will have lost your government-provided liability. You must act in compliance with the scope of your duties as are provided in the Colorado State Constitution and the Colorado State laws. Included among these is the Colorado Constitution, Article 29, Section 1A, B, and C. The conduct of public officers, members of the General Assembly, local government offices, and government employees must hold the respect and confidence of the people. That's you. They shall carry out their duties for the benefit of the people of the state. They shall therefore avoid conduct that is in violation of their public trust that creates a justifiable impression among members of the public that such trust is being violated. You are already violated our trust and therefore violated our state constitution. Do not push it further by ceasing to stop this meeting and address our concerns before attempting to pass yet another unapproved land use code. And there's so much more that I could bring forth that I'd like for you guys to address.
Michael Gettens.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. My name is Michael Gettens. I'm a sojourner and farm worker in the North Fork Valley area near Paonia. And I'm not going to talk about the actual land use codes themselves, but I'm going to kind of go in the same, piggyback a little bit on Cynthia with the jurisdiction a little bit and the authority that is needed to pass such codes. I have a couple questions. So first, are these land use codes truly crafted by Delta County citizens, their representatives, and this commission? From what I've heard tonight, it sounds like you've worked very hard on this code, and I believe you have, so thank you for that. The commissioners say this code needs to be approved by before a higher jurisdiction gets involved. You mentioned fears of the state capitol in Denver. Can you please identify the threats you received so we can be better informed on how to support you in your duties? Please do not yield to external pressure, especially if that means neglecting to represent the public which you serve. Secondly, I heard the words allowed rights by Mr. Commissioner here. And also, I think it was quoted in the document as well, the updated land use codes allowed rights. This sounds like a contradiction to me. Rights cannot be infringed by codes or ordinances. That's not your job. On the contrary, you were elected to preserve our rights, not diminish them. And so I also love presidential quotes as well. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to share one as well. We used to have some good presidents, not during my lifetime, but there were good ones in the past. And this one's from James Madison. It will be of little avail to the people that the laws are made by men of their own choice, if the laws be so voluminous that they cannot be read, or so incoherent that they cannot be understood. Thank you.
And for the record, it was allowed by right.
Thank you, Commissioner. We've got Bob Baxley, and then we've got a group of 5 on deck, starting with Jake Dahlman, Sadie Alpern, Pamela Jackson, Daniel Kelso, and Daniela Arnon. That works.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Bob Baxley, and I live over in Hotchkiss. The only reason that a free people would subject themselves to something so vile and immoral as a government is in hopes that it will protect their rights. Historically, this has worked exactly 0 times. Delta County has been an outlier in the world of ever more oppressive regulation. The feature of our county has been highly valued by old timers and newcomers alike. After the inept bungling of the 2021 LUC creation and adoption, we pushed back against your attempts to curtail our liberty. The public voice was voluminous and nearly unanimous in opposition to this code and all that it implies. Rather than heed our will, you dismissed our position as fringe and not representative of the larger public sentiment. The condescending tone you have continued to take against our position has proven your utter contempt for your constituency. This is arrogant and deeply troubling. Your rewrite of the 2021 code still attempts to unacceptably restrict rights we have enjoyed since the 1800s. Too many ambiguities within the code leave the door open to biased interpretation by county officials. The fine schedule is ridiculous and reeks of a land grab. Limits to assembly in number and frequency are a blatant First Amendment violation. Chapter 13 as a whole is a disaster that allows for the county to generate revenue for the general fund simply by stepping up enforcement of the code. Promises that enforcement will be complaint-driven are useless unless it is codified that the county shall only investigate complaints submitted in writing by signed complainants directly harmed by the alleged violation. Short of this, the code can be turned on the public as a weapon by any county government, present or future. To adopt this code after it has been rejected by the Planning Commission and with the knowledge that it is counter to the will of the people would be an act of unforgivable aggression against the peaceful inhabitants of this county. Stop applying lipstick to this dead pig and follow the master plan, which calls for plainly worded, brief, community-crafted land use code. Currently, farmers are staging uprisings against their government in over 20 countries around the world. Massive piles of old tires and manure are being set ablaze on the steps of government offices, and cities are being blockaded by tractor convoys around Europe. The farmers of the world are done being hogtied by feckless bureaucrats. We are no different. We are not here clutching our pearls to ask you to please be a little less abusive of our rights. We are here to put you on notice that you will not infringe one more inch against what God has given us.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Jacob Dahlman. I'm from Crawford. I represent the Alliance for Land Liberty. Until another speaker identifies otherwise, those who will speak after me also represent A4LL. I'm a farmer and I like to watch things grow. And for the past year, I've been watching this land use code grow and your group doubling down on inappropriately moving forward with it. I don't like that. 1 year after the last revision was shot down, we gather here again to reject your land use code. Every line of this document may have been reviewed and some have been revised, but this LUC is not substantially nor fundamentally different from the revised land use code that was rejected by us last year and by you. You held a public hearing and over 80 residents spoke. Many asked you to stop, repeal, and vote. A simple citizen request for you to hit that pause button on this land use code to stop updating the 2021 code that was rushed through and to put it up to the public to decide where to go next. We found a few quotes from the poorly attended public hearing of January 5th, 2021, during which this land use code was first adopted. One commissioner said, it comes down to, at some point, that you have to either do it or get off of it. Everyone involved is exhausted, and I'm looking forward to getting on with it. He also said, and I quote, to be taken seriously by other entities, we need a land use code. So I ask you, sirs, who are these other entities? And why do you not take us seriously? One resident who participated fully in the development of the first LUC still felt manipulated by the process, especially in terms of time to review the zoning maps. She asked the board to delay this adoption and give the public more time. In December 2020, the Western Slope Conservation Center wrote that they were concerned the county is rushing to complete the land use code revision process without adequate time for the public to review the certified code. They go on to say the timing is disingenuous. The 2 short public comments periods were inadequate, and they asked the board to delay for their approval. From the start, this code has been flawed, and the timing has repeatedly been disingenuous. Why did you schedule this public hearing during the week in which all Delta County schools are on break, if you really are interested in maximizing public involvement? We understand that a lot of time and energy has gone into this, and we understand that this project has become a sunken cost fallacy. Sometimes it's best to surrender to the reason. Let's let this living document die. It won't be chaos, for we choose to live in peace. We've asked you before, we're done pleading. You are not the master. Just stop working on this revision, repeal the code you keep trying to revise, and put it all to public vote. You swore to serve the public, not dictate. It's time to hold up to your oaths.
Lady Alpern Paonia. When we start over as a community with both the 1996 and 2018 master plans as our guide, let us let the good parts of this code be remembered and let the excess and the waste rot away like manure in a compost pile. Page 80 of the 2018 master plan says that the future land use plan, FLUP, is an advisory document and is not the same as land use regulations. A since removed county FAQ website also noted that the FLUP is not zoning in disguise. But then when we weren't looking, in came the zoning. You cannot properly go back and change the fact that you didn't properly notify. You cannot go back and change the fact that you did not properly notify all of the affected residents that you created new rules and implemented zoning on their land. But you can stop now. You can repeal what you keep trying to fix. We can start over and do it right. Page 21 of the new revision of the land use code states that one purpose of this code is to protect the character of existing rural communities, urban communities, and neighborhoods in Delta County. However, this code is primarily comprised of imported boilerplate language. Why are we spending so much time on something that was flawed from the start and doesn't belong here? Take this definition on page 209 of the 2024 revision, for example. Quote, commercial, with reference to categories of land uses, means a group of land uses that involve general commercial activity. How can it make sense to use the word that you are defining within the definition of the word you are defining? When does an activity count as commercial? Is it anytime commerce is conducted, anytime one person buys something from another? This definition is one of the most important parts of this code, a clarification that the residents of this county actually do find important in order to preserve the character of Delta County. We want protection from big commercial land exploitation and pollution, and not restriction on harmless home businesses and small agriculture. But this code does not achieve that because it does not draw a clear line. We can find that line. We can draw that line. We can make this code both clearer and more concise. We don't want a 230-page code. Together, we can create a workable and lasting code in under 100 pages. Give us some time and stop trying to simply get this over with. It won't be chaos, for we long to live in peace. It won't lead to mob rule, for we are not an unruly mob. We are constituents of this county. We are voices sounding as one, yet you don't hear us. What can we do? Let's do what's right instead of trying to settle for a better version of the wrong document. I just want to briefly say, just yesterday, I reached out to all the folks that I thought might be coming, and almost none of them could come. And I just have this list of 19 folks that wish they could have been here. They couldn't, like we mentioned, it is Delta County School District's break. There's, people are working, hardworking out there, but I think all of us could have brought a list of 10 to 20 folks, and this is not a fringe group. Thank you.
Pamela Jackson, Paonia. I'll skip the PC talk and get right to it. You guys know me anyway. I want to clear up a little history other people have been clearing up. 1 year ago, we were here in this same place, all telling these stories about our beautiful lives in Paonia and Delta County and how we love it here. And we spoke for 4 hours from our hearts in opposition to a very restrictive and even punitive land use code. Did you hear those words? You had even showed up at that meeting, guys, and I like you all, but you had showed up at that meeting with a plan already written to drop in place the next day before you heard our concerns. Thank God you listened to us. You made some changes. But we did find out that you hadn't even read the document. You guys had not read the entire land use code. So that's what you're paid to do, like $85,000 a year plus benefits. And how much do you all make out here? Maybe $30,000 a year and working 2 or 3 jobs. And yet we are taking the time to read the documents and we're trying to make what we call common sense out of them. And we're showing up time and time again. The history, the master plan meetings, as you know, were very well attended in 2018. People were really into that. It represented Delta County. But in January 2021, you made a big mistake by not notifying by mail all the legal landowners. You really needed to do that. And by the way, why didn't you guys have your commissioner thing stamped? Because you should have done that. Anyway, I just found out about that today. But your excuse for not doing the mailing was because it was costly. Well, boys and girls, it's 3 years later. How much more money have we spent trying to get this done? You know, I say we should get rid of that thing, and I know you don't want to. You tell us that you realize that the LUC is imperfect, but that's okay because you think you're going to push it through because it's a living document, and that means you can just keep fixing it later. We want a real document. Consider the U.S. Constitution. I forgot to bring it, but it fits in my pocket. It's small. It's enough to govern an entire nation. And it's a fraction of the size of this land use code. So I believe that we can make a similar document here in Delta County. Okay, you wanted specifics. I object to several pages, but I only have 3 minutes and I'm probably over. Chapter 10 is blank. It says reserved. What's it reserved for, guys? And are you going to put text in there afterwards and hope we don't notice because it's a living document? We don't want a living document. And he already mentioned chapter 13. It's a nightmare, but it applies to all zones equally instead of those activities of high impact and high potential to harm. Why does this code still offer the county the ability to foreclose on a property that couldn't, for instance, afford the application process? This sounds suspiciously like a land grab. It's not good or right for Delta County. And one more comment. We don't have to do things the way Denver and Boulder do things. We don't need to do that. But we do need to vote. You all need to vote. We need to get people in who feel like we do so that we can stop all these new laws that are coming down the pike.
Daniela Arnon, what you see as some necessary document to make approvals easier, many of us see as the fingerprints of a much longer arm. This land use code and other regulations in the legislative pipeline are simply tools to move us in the direction of more centralized control. As a free people, we want less centralized control and more local governance. I have the right to own my own farm and be happy, to live in harmony with the shared values of Delta County and the Delta County community. Let us come together and grow local governance from the ground up. Surely we're not all so selfish that we need this much regulation in our lives. This code goes so far as to regulate how one can live in a camper or similar simple structure on one's own land. The camper is not the problem. Raw sewage in an open ditch is a problem. Gathering junk is a problem. And we already have rules on that through state laws and local ordinances. Chapter 2, Section 3 only provides another reason for a violation and creates a victim just by your words. It solves no problem and creates a sense of tyranny, and we won't stand for it. Here on page 134, Chapter 7, Section 2E4D, it says the director may require additional escrow funds to be paid for additional services related to the application. Then on the next page, Section 2E4G informs that if the applicant does not pay additional escrow funds in the allotted time period, the county shall be entitled to a lien on the property, which it can then perfect and foreclose upon. How is this fair? Chapter 2, Section 2, Table 2B of the 2024 proposed LUC is fundamentally the same as the publicly rejected 2022-2023 Land Use Code, and another blatant example of government overreach. The basic allowed by right property freedoms to house ourselves, conduct home business, assemble with over 50 people, and much more would now require a county permit? There's no way we can please everyone all the time, but there's always an opportunity to limit government overreach into private lives and support local governance from the ground up. This is a public hearing. The will of the people is the law of the land. Are you even listening? Let's start over in an orderly manner. Let's remove the 2021 LUC and this proposed update, recreate the area planning committees for which we now have many dedicated and capable people in the community willing to volunteer and make the commitment to serve on these ACPs, and honor the 2018 master plan as a basis for designing a simple, straightforward document, spelling out common sense, enduring guidelines based on the unique needs of our beautiful, creative, unique watershed and the residents of Delta County, and that can only be changed with community approval. Put it to a vote. Let's make it that good.
Looks like our timer, the battery in it. Yeah, but
Yeah,
now,
but it won't reset now.
okay, sir, go ahead.
Hello,
And your name is?
can you hear me? Daniel Kelso, Paonia. Delta County's 1996 master plan was based on the watersheds of Delta County, and planning was grown from the neighborhoods therein. We should keep it that way or go back to it. The 2018 master plan recommended retaining the watershed-based area planning committees, APCs. Why was that recommendation ignored so soon after the master plan was completed? Why are they gone now? The adoption of the 2021 LUC strayed far from the master plan and repealed all prior codes, including the APCs. It received little to no public attention or participation. It is now clear that the people of Delta County went through a time of complacency because they trusted that the elected officials would uphold the county's long-held values of freedom and right doing. The seemingly innocent 2021 land use codes revealed their true colors and true nature with the updates. And that woke a bunch of people up again, including me. Enough folks are done with complacency. We want to try again. We want to participate. Last year on February 28th at the Delta Family Center right here in this room, approximately 600 residents gathered, 100 more on Zoom to participate. There was almost unanimous dissent of complaint and grievance to both the existing active 2021 and the 2022 LUCs. update. Many said that they were speaking on behalf of their neighbors who could not make it to the meeting, just as we are tonight. There are roughly 32,000 residents of Delta County, so attendance was 2.2% of the county, which politically speaking is a lot. If 2% of US citizens showed up to a public hearing at the country capital in DC, it would be a gathering of 6.6 million people. Furthermore, the land use code only applies to the citizens of unincorporated Delta County, which has a total population of only about 14,000. This makes last year's total attendance of true constituents to the land use code to be 5%, again, mostly in opposition. The massive public outcry was deflected, dismissed, and ignored. Many citizens displayed adept and detailed knowledge of the land use code, section by section, but they were soon publicly declared victims of disinformation campaigns. The citizens who sacrificed their time to finally show up and participate at a public hearing were dishonored by being labeled as insignificant fringe population. But we are still here today. Each one of us who is here represents at least 10 other people who are not here, and probably more. We're well-informed, well-meaning, and peaceful citizens of Delta County. And we can do this. We can do grassroots planning.
Time, go ahead and wrap it up.
We should start at the neighborhood level. We don't want more centralization. It doesn't matter who the director is. He or she is still someone far removed from what's happening in each neighborhood. 2 master plans called for local, watershed-based area planning committees, and we call for that again now. 2021 land use code is a crumbling foundation, and we do have solid foundations to go back to and start building upon. Let's start again with the APCs of the specific zoning ordinances.
We've got Riley Lopez and Nico Wolf next. On deck, Tim Austin, Chris Crawford, and Kurt Rockwell.
Riley Lopez, Paonia, thank you for your time today. I want to first comment on the brief presentation at the beginning. Sustainable development is a focus of Delta County's future. And a study at the heart of sustainability, will it incorporate the 3 E's, which is a study at the heart of sustainability, excuse me. That's the balance between the environment, economy, and equity. What is the impetus of Delta County's sustainable development? I continue. I am a 5th generation Coloradan, and I am the descendant of farmers. So 2 things I know are true: what it's like living in a drought my entire life, and what it's like when someone is interested in your land. A similar history happened not long ago when the Ute people lived on this land, the land we raised our families on today. Time and time again, the government attempted to remove the Utes' inhabitancy, desiring the land and the resources beneath their ways of life. Removal was forced, treaties were made, and all were broken. Another example within this land use code, which lacks accountability, can be found on page 99 in section 5, agricultural, natural, and cultural resources E3B, which reads, quote, "Development shall not occur within delineated wetlands and with 100 feet of the delineated wetlands unless the wetlands delineation and functional assessment report indicates that development won't degrade or place risk on the wetlands." So my question is, who is conducting the wetlands delineation and functional assessment report? Who determines what development will not degrade the quality of the wetlands or increase the risk of damage? This is about the wetlands, yes, but it's also about the vagueness that is saturated in the code without any functional follow-through or clarity delivered to us as citizens. I ask for more accountability because this affects everyone. We had the same hearing last year and we stood in opposition to a land use code remarkably similar to this one, yet it seems you didn't hear us. We asked you to stop working on it, to give us a chance to participate, since so many of us hadn't known you were doing it, but you didn't seem to hear us and you didn't stop working on it. What will it take for you to really hear our voices? At which point do your ears shift from hearing platitudes to listening to what really matters to your constituents and integrating actions that are the best interest for everyone? We do not stand here in opposition to this revision alone. We stand here in opposition to the adopted land use code itself. We pay taxes to this county. We want and deserve better. Something better than what's on the table and something more in line with the master plan, something that is closer to perfect and more appropriate for this area, a document that fits with the unique, agriculturally fruitful, ergonomic, stock raising, harmonious life that we treasure and share. Why not take this opportunity to create with prosperity for all, not just the few, with those who have different values than you? Instead of government bureaucrats, we can utilize trained
Time.
community mediators to handle disputes. If you were listening and if you were leading, I think that this would all look different. You would represent us and the values from those who live on and work the land of Delta County. It's time to repeal this proposed land use code and the 2021 LUC and listen to the people of this county and let us start over. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nico Wolf. I live outside Crawford. And the people who are here tonight are not the only people left who care about this. As they mentioned, their spring break, people are out of town. Everyone who is here represents at least 10 other people, maybe 20, maybe 100. And we're all tired of this. Everybody's been tired of this since we started in 2021. If you read the minutes from the original meeting, delay, please slow down, please wait, give us more time. This is from the start, and we're asking you that again. Last year, we asked you to table it. Many people on multiple occasions asked you to slow down, to stop, give us time to really input. And you kept plowing ahead with the same thing. From what I understand, you started working on this revision the day before the hearing of last year. You know, a lot of us here have spent our time reading these words, analyzing them, figuring them out, finding the issues and sending you emails, and a lot of those emails go ignored. And that's why a lot of people don't feel like you hear us. You know, and I've said freedom to you guys before, and you don't like it, but that is a specific reason we're standing here today. Delta County freedom is what we found here in Delta County, whether it was last week or 10 generations ago. The sense of freedom that Delta County exudes is greater than any place I've lived in my adult life, and I cherish that. We all cherish that. And this land use code, as it is, violates that sense of freedom by its mere excess of words and rules. And I've told you several times that, yes, I do want land regulations, but only on the things that matter, only on those activities that have real potential to harm other people. This code goes so far beyond what is necessary. Now, you may pass this revision tonight, but I don't accept it. And I, for one, don't consent to this document having any authority over my life. And speaking of the resolution, I'm going to go on. Colorado Constitution, Article 2, Section 2 states that the people of this state have the sole and exclusive right of governing themselves as a free, sovereign, and independent state, and to alter and abolish their constitution and form of government when they deem it necessary to their safety and happiness. Of all the powers mentioned in that one sentence of our state's constitution, the words that stand out the most to me are that we have the sole and exclusive right of governing ourselves. And with freedom comes great responsibility. You know, but what we choose to embrace now is that sole and exclusive right. Many of us here stand in our own testament that our lives are true practice of that right. As a self-governing people, we reject this land use code. Another topic, I read the resolution that you're planning to sign tonight, and I want to ask, why on page 2 does it say, whereas on January 16th, 2024, the Board of County Commissioners held a duly noticed public hearing to consider adopting the 2024 Land Use Code update and related actions? Was there a hearing on January 16th? On page 3, it says, whereas on January 10th, 2024, the Board of County Commissioners held a duly noticed public hearing to consider adopting the 2023 Land Use Code update. Was there a public hearing on January 10th? How can you sign a resolution that has falsities in it? So anyway, again, gentlemen, please stop. Please stop. Let's go back. Let's start over. A lot of people want to be involved. We can do better than this. We can do much shorter, concise, simple, common sense. We can do this right.
My name is Tim Austin. I live in Paonia. One of the biggest problems I have with this, gentleman, is you never asked us if we wanted this. You never told us why this was a good idea. Tonight, I hear a gentleman that's been hired stand up here and talk about how there's going to be less red tape. Less than what? if we have to go beg you to let us use our land the way we want, that's less red tape? What are we talking about? Where's the common sense here? So now if I want to start a business, I have to come ask permission from you. And he talked about how that was streamlined now. I don't understand that. This makes no sense to me. Begging you for permits is only going to cost us money and time and aggravation that we don't need. It's hard enough to make a living in this county and anywhere else in the United States right now because of this taxation that we don't want and don't like and regulations we don't want and don't like. This is just one more step in that. There's a problem. I understand there's a problem of affordable housing in this county, and citizens of this county and the free market system will take care of that if you just leave it alone. Additional dwelling units are very, very cost-effective way of providing housing for other people. And you're limiting the number of ADUs that can be presented on any property. I have Airbnb units, and I heard some comment of how horrible that is. I'm helping with the affordable housing in this county by giving people a place to stay that come for temporary. So that frees up other housing for rentals for people to live here. The main export of our county is kids. And I'm one of the lucky ones to get to come back to this county. And I've got a big investment in this county that you would not allow me to do. And I'm housing people and I'm brought in business here that brings money that I pay contractors. I pay my cleaning contractors. I pay construction people. And the codes you're getting ready to pass will not allow me to do that business in this county. And I came back here for a specific reason, because this county is about freedom. And now you're trying to pass this crap. You're trying to do this to us. You can piss on our leg and tell us it's raining, but everybody sitting here knows the difference.
I'm Chris Crawford. I'm a local professional land surveyor in the community. Been working here for over 20 years. And so I've worked with the county. I worked with the majority of the population and the administration on this for the past several years, as far as trying to make it correct and right and fit the needs of our community. What I will say, and what I'd like to ask of the commissioners and the county in general, is ever since last year, when that resolution to have a new land use code did not pass, most of the cooperation between the county departments as well as the professionals in this type of environment have pretty much ceased to exist. We had great meetings before that, leading up to the 2023 LUC provisions. And it seemed like after that, it was just kind of put by the wayside. And as I looked over the current land use code proposal, I still saw a lot of examples of things that we discussed over and over that were either not remedied or did not seem to take effect. And I have seen changes. I have seen good changes. I've seen bad changes. And I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on the land use code. I wouldn't expect anyone to be. I'm an expert in my field. The planning department's an expert in their field, or should be. You as commissioners should not be expected to be professionals and all that, just as the public should not be. What I do ask is that you guys need to definitely take a step back, look back through, whether it's grammatical, technical, or idealistic differences of what needs to occur in the land use code before it's passed, and include the public. There's professionals out in the public that have a lot of input on this, not just in the profession that I'm in, but as a whole. And they all have great voices to speak with. And I think, that we can make something that's viable for everyone. Is everyone going to be happy? Absolutely not. But I think we can get something that works for everyone in a general consensus, as long as we work together on building it. So reach out to the professionals in the community and not just in-house. And let's do this thing right, even if it does take an extra few months to get it correct. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
We've got Kurt Rockwell next. On deck, we've got Stanley Smile, Roger Bentley, Randy Fisher, and Beth Quist.
From what I've heard tonight, gentlemen, I got 3 words for you. Shame, shame, shame. You guys are sitting here pretending to have authority over us when you haven't even followed the law yourself. And that isn't even part of what I wanted to talk about. You need to start at the beginning. And that might be the definition of code. Do you know the definition of code? I don't think you do. And before I get on to that, I'd like to say you all pledged allegiance to the republic with liberty and freedom for all. I don't think you believe that either. So anyway, the definition of code, corporate governance. Isn't the county unincorporated? So if the county is unincorporated, then we're not affected by any code. You have no jurisdiction. Who's going to enforce this code? The sheriff? He took the same oath you guys did. To the Constitution, the one I gave you, Mike, last meeting we were here. You guys are elected, the sheriff's elected. Whatever code you write doesn't matter to the unincorporated county. It's null and void. It's nothing. These people sitting here are the masters. We form the government. And then we elect servants to do our bidding for us, to do what we see as proper. And yeah, one guy dumping manure in the river is wrong. But that's just a simple matter of violating somebody else's rights. It's not something we need to write a code about. And these people that you hire or appoint to be your planning committee, they're under the same oath you are. Yet they don't follow the laws. It's amazing to me how you guys just skirt the law and think you can just walk all over us. None of you have the authority to write or enforce code. You're governed by law. And by what I heard earlier, you guys don't even follow the law. What gives here? I read the 1996 master draft.
Time is up.
And it's 13 pages. Mentions our rights several times. And by the way, rights aren't allowed. Rights are given by God. You don't allow them. Nobody else allows them. They are given by God. So I think you guys need to just kind of crumple this thing up, throw it in the wood stove, start talking to the people, and let's be lawful. Let's do things under authority. Jurisdiction. These are real words. These words have meaning. And you guys need to figure it out. God bless America and God bless Delta County.
I got a Stanley Smile, I think, Roger Bentley, Randy Fisher, Beth Quist. Any of those four like to speak this evening?
Hi, I'm Beth Quist. I live in Hotchkiss. I moved out here in 2007 really to get away from the overreach and government control of the Front Range. Even though I grew up rural, I still just saw more and more loss of freedoms. And one of the things that I would be most heavily impacted by in this land code would be affordable housing, the restriction of farm workers, dwellings, RVs, tiny houses, yurts. I'd also be heavily impacted by the limits to gatherings on one's property. As a musician, as a performing musician, I would like to be able to continue to play some wonderful concerts here that I've had such a wonderful time doing. And I just really don't support this at all. And I'd like to join the rest of the people who have said they'd like to just trash this one and start over and really focus on our own liberty and community. That's all. Thanks.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Randy Fisher. I thought Stanley was here, so I was kind of holding back. I kind of figured he'd be up here. Anyway, I wanted to bring up a point that I have talked about to you gentlemen at length about, and I've talked to my people about. One of the things I thought about when I got here, when they moved the podium from the side to here to focus on you, at first I thought about that and I thought, that's not right. We should be talking to our people. Then I realized that it went back to the base root of what I have been trying to educate you people on time and time again, that we, the people, are the lesser magistrate. That means we tell you what to do. You don't tell us what to do. You do not set stuff up for us. We tell you. But when you do papers and whatnot that we don't approve, that's you doing stuff without us. That makes an imbalance and makes a lot of people, the reason we fill these rooms, unhappy. Okay, Mike, I totally appreciate what you say under the terms of what you were saying when we first got started, that if we don't, Denver will. But you see, what we've gotten backwards is that Denver doesn't tell us what to do. The state does not tell us what to do. We, the people, tell the state what to do. We, the people, tell our county what to do. You are our representatives. You take our information to the state and say, I'm sorry, that doesn't work for Delta County. It is not. Well, we don't want the state to tell us what to do. The state can buy it. The state is us. We tell them. And when we get this all backwards, we run into really big problems. And we have a large group of people that are really unhappy. So we can keep kicking this down the curb and trying to do something that doesn't make the people happy, as long as we're willing as people to sit back and do nothing. But this doesn't appear to be a group of people that wants to sit back and do nothing. So therefore, the people have spoken. We spoke last year. And at first I was talking to Stanley today. I think it's the same Stanley because it's not a common name. I was talking to Stanley. He said, well, we did okay because I thought we made no progress. And that really frustrated me. He said, no, we did some progress. And I was like, all right, well then that's good. That's good. But the progress we really need to make is for us to understand, before we can approve this, we have to understand the structure. And the structure is, I hear that I'm done, I will finish. The structure is, we tell you, you tell the state tells the Fed. Until we get that straight, nothing else will work. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your hard work. And we, the people, will tell you what to do next.
So I've got Stanley Smile and Roger Bentley. Thank you. Next up, Stephen Keenan, Fred Ballard, Daniel Kennedy, and Kelly Smith.
Hello, name is Stanley Smigel from Crawford. This land use code has taken the power of the people and put it into the hands of a few. As property owners, we're held to numerous rules. Most of those rules pose no harm or threat to others. You impose these rules on us with the threat of violence. If we're found in any violation of any of these codes, that violence is in the form of fines, liens, and criminal action. This places a lot of burden on the public, and you're here to serve the public. Not corporate interests, not state interests, like that gentleman just said. He spoke it very well, far better than I ever could. The director and you guys stand immune from any liability or consequences. Mike Lane approved a $200,000 pavement project that us taxpayers paid for, and there is no consequences whatsoever. But if I do the slightest violation, I have a code enforcement officer that come to my property and can issue fines to me. I can get a lien on my house. I can lose my property for the most insignificant violations. This is wrong. It's immoral. It's unjust. It's against the Constitution. It's not right. These people represent about 2% of the population that would come down here. For every one of you, there's 100 other people that feel the same way. We're here on our time and our dollar, and we pay you to serve and protect us. Now, we don't have any problems with you. It's nothing personal. We just want you to do your job. And your job is to serve the public, not yourself, your wallet, or your political interests, or your friends. And this land use code is so subjective. It's impossible to understand when you read it. You can't, a common man can't go through that. Some of these people are really intelligent. They can go through that code and read you sections and numbers. But to the average person, they can't do that. And I've spoken to many people in this county, and I run into about 2% that say something needs to be done. We need some rules, but they don't know what. This ain't the answer. You need to take this land use code, throw it in the garbage, go back to the master plan. And I know you guys can do it. You're stand-up guys. You live in Delta County. You grew up in this county, so I already know you're freedom-loving people. I know it in my heart. And you will do the right thing. You will step up and do something wonderful for this county. I guarantee you will.
We've got Stephen Keenan, Fred Ballard, Daniel Kennedy, and Kelly Smith next.
Fred Ballard here from Delta, Colorado. Just a couple things, don't have nothing wrote out, but basically I'm a land surveyor, and basically we've been doing land surveys. I've been doing surveys here in Delta County since about 1992, and all they've done is got harder, and especially since this land use code has passed in 2021. We used to be able to go through a subdivision and get it done in a couple months. Currently working on one, or actually a couple, but one of them that we're working on has been going on near a year. And basically, when you start doing all these regulations, that's what I see with everything. It's just dragging it on further. I just ask that you would repeal the 2021 land use code and not pass this one tonight. Thank you.
Kennedy,
No, he needs to address
Delta.
this.
This is the land use code where we have public input. We can't really understand you facing away.
George Clooney once said, "I don't like to share my personal life. It wouldn't be personal if I shared it." Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the commissioners and planning zoning for Delta County, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your time. I hear your all complaints, and you all are in charge, and I'm merely a public servant. Thank you for all of your hundreds of thousands of dollars of your time and energy. I horribly goofed up the code for the past couple of years, me and my folks. I'm going to write an apology in the newspaper. Luckily, you can trust the government and me to do the right thing. What I'm hearing is less rules, we want to be left alone in freedom, and I apologize for this expensive mess, but luckily it only cost a few $100,000. Don't worry, we got some more money. I'll be giving some cash out at the end of the meeting out of my pocket and my salary to try and make things a little bit better. I have not read the full land use code. I have tried a few times. I do get emails, and it's too much. I have a business. I'm a busy dude. I want to be taking a nap right now, eating my dinner, watching a movie. So I haven't read it. I apologize. I'm going to write it as a 10-page document so it can fit in the newspaper. And anyone that wants to help me, we will take a few weeks and we can write it all together. If you like it, let's make it happen. Kurt Vonnegut once said, true terror is to wake up one morning and discover that your high school class is running the country. Ronald Reagan once said, government's view of the economy could be summed up in a few short phrases. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. And if it stops moving, subsidize it. There are two ways to acquire the niceties of life. Well, three. You could have a business, I guess, or win stuff. One would be to produce them, or two, to plunder them. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men living together in society, they create for themselves in the course of time a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. Scrolling down to next page on my computer. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated or something. Satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. C.S. Lewis, Narnia dude. Thomas Paine, in my negative 2 seconds, society in every state is a blessing, but government, even its best state, is but a necessary evil. In its worst state, an intolerable one. Don't worry, guys, I will get this mess fixed. We'll have a great land use code. It will be 10 pages long. I'm going to invite all of us to make it happen really soon, and we will have the other one put right behind us.
Stephen Keenan, was that you?
That's Daniel Kennedy.
Okay, thank you. Stephen Keenan. Kelly Smith. On deck, we have Caitlin Elam and Van Barrow.
Do those people wish to speak? If you do, come on up.
Yes.
If he read your name off, yes.
All right, I was on deck. Okay, let me get my notes. All righty. My name is Caitlin Elam. I live in Paonia. I'm a small business owner. I own the meat shop. You wrote a letter for us one time, Wendell. Thank you so much. The thing that I've thought about most with this land use code is like the farming crisis that we're in. And I'm 32 and y'all look between 60 and 75.
Thank
So
you.
surely y'all know what I'm talking about, which is that young people aren't really interested in farming, or they aren't able to access farming. And so as I've learned about the land use code, I've just thought more and more that it bars access to farming for young people, common young people, such as myself. Because I started my business
by the grace of God, was $0. And that was totally lucky, you know? People like me, they don't come up in life. They work for McDonald's or something. Bless their hearts. But they want land and they want to work with animals. And I hope that y'all would want that for people like me, young people, because that's a beautiful life. The other thing that I think about is disabled folks and fixed incomes folks in this county. They can't show up like I can, but they might feel the same way as me. And I really hope that y'all care about them like I do, because they don't have as loud of a voice as I might. And I implore you to think about them, talk to them, and ask them if they're okay, if this land use code is affecting them in a negative way. It's your responsibility. The other thing that I think about is the water crisis in Colorado. Dave Kanzer from the Colorado River District has come around a few times. And every single time he changes his tune a little bit different. And the last time I hung around him, he asked, how much would y'all take to fallow your fields so that we can have the water come on down? And most people in that room said, hell no. You know, but this land use code is happening at the same time as water is becoming more scarce. And the land use code is really barring people from living on the land and farming. It is. Y'all know that. And my conspiracy brain thinks that it's connected, but hopefully it's not. Those are the things that I think about. And I just asked you gentlemen to look out for us younger people, because you have power. You have power that I don't. So please look out for me like I'm your child. Please do that. Thank you.
Van Barrow. On deck, we got Adrian, is that Levy?
Hello, I'm Van Barrow from Delta, Colorado. And first off, I would just like to address the audience, because we are the people here and we have the say. So none of you up here have pledged allegiance to our country, to our actual land. This is a gold fringed flag that's pledging your allegiance to the cabal, to the maritime law, deep state, and Britain. Royal Crown. From me and my experience, I've been
Mr. Barrow, I'd like for you to turn around. I would request that.
I'll face sideways, but I'm gonna face both of you.
Thank you.
As a homeless person who just got out of homelessness like a month ago, I find this land use code very like distracting to our ability to be able to like live and have somewhere safe to be. I was in a trailer for about 4 months, and that's going to be taken away from public access. That's not going to be a thing anymore with this land use code. That probably saved my life. I think in Colorado, these people freeze. Like, if you're anywhere around the weather here, you know that it's not like possible to just live in a tent or under the bridge. I feel that this is completely demolishing like farming, any sort of agriculture, any sort of community like structure. Family compound living is the only way we can financially afford to make a living these days. It's the only way that rent can get paid for most people. And this is completely distracting from that. As far as the wireless towers go, let me pull up my notes because nobody can actually remember which sections and which codes go to what. So section 4G, states that the wireless towers have to be 50 feet or whatever that is about. And that's pretty stupid if you ask me, because like that also diminishes like agriculture production and views and and health reasons, all of that. So I'd like to end by piggybacking off of Cynthia O'Neill and her statement. We are making it abundantly clear to everyone who comes in, peace as a citizen of the Republic of the United States of America and not as a United States citizen. Per the Constitution, supreme law of the land, not maritime law of the water, Article 6, Clause 1, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, Article 4, Section 4, Article 2, Section 4, Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, FRCP 38. You guys have not filed your oaths, and therefore, as the public they serve, are requiring proof of their filed oaths and bonds before they are allowed to make any further decisions. Cite Oaths and Affirmations, CRS 24-12-101, and Public Official Sobriety Bond, CRS 30-10-31. In addition,
Time.
all three of you failed in their duty to examine bonds, CRS 24-13-105. It is the duty of the Board of County Commissioners of each county at each regular term on the first day of each term to examine and inquire into the sufficiency of the official bond of the county treasurer, sheriff, coroner, county assessor, county clerk, and recorder, and county surveyor, and all other official bonds given by any county officer as required by law. Tonight, the 21st of February 2024, if the Board of County Commissioners rebutes any of these laws, they must cite the law that states they do not have they must cite the law that states they do not have to have requirements for oath or affirmation, CRS 24-12-101. And they must cite the law that states public official
to wrap
sobriety
up,
bond,
Mr. Bond.
CRS 30-10-311 bonds or insurance of county commissioners are not required.
We've got an Aiden Levy. Is there Aiden Levy in here? Thank you.
I'm Aiden Levy. I'm out of Crawford. I'm a landowner and also run a couple small businesses here. Isn't it strange that in the wealthiest country in human history, we have a homeless epidemic? Isn't it strange that in the wealthiest country in history, not only is our country, but our citizens in massive amounts of debt? Isn't it strange that it is normal to spend an entire life just to afford a box to live in? That we spend our whole life in debt just to have a place to live, and these are the lucky ones. This is one of the last places in the country that it is not illegal to live in a simple dwelling, yurt, cabin, or camper, or tiny house. Which, mind you, is how humans have lived for all of history. Look around. Codes don't prevent poverty, social unrest, or droughts. A healthy culture, a connection to the land, and a strong community prevent these things. What if instead of doing what the rest of the country has done, what if instead of creating a department around fines, policing our community, we choose a different path of development? A department that is a community resource, trained mediators instead of code enforcers. You may think these codes are mild, but once the department is made, it will only grow. It will get money from fines and careers will be built, and it is basically impossible to stop once started. After all, we are here talking about an update. The result will be, as with everywhere else, the only people who can afford to navigate all the permitting and sort through all the regulations will be the rich and corporations. Everyone else will go into debt. Restrictions of corporate waste and abuses don't need to be coupled with the control of individual citizens. Why is this even in the same document? Just because we need protections from industrial waste doesn't mean we need protections from someone living in a cabin. This is a living document that can be altered and updated without public approval or consent, backed up with government-approved spy drones. Are you okay with the government flying a drone in your backyard? No. This is groundwork for something very dangerous and toxic. Rather than fall in line and walk in the shadow of a morally and financially bankrupt nation, we could take a different path, a county that supports the people instead of controlling the people. It will take bravery, creativity, patience, change, and innovation always do. Please stop this update, repeal the 2021 codes, and let the people create something unique for this unique and special place. Thank you.
Manna Parker.
Hi, my name is Mana Parker and I live in Crawford. I'm 27 years old and I was lucky enough to be able to buy land in Crawford this past year. And the reason I did end up doing this is because I believe in Delta County and I believe that we are able to do something great here and make food for people, take care of people, create a community that believes in sovereignty and freedom. And I spent a couple hours last night skimming this land use code that's 230 pages long, and I got to the 210th page before I finally gave up. But it went to show me that this code is too complex and too confusing for the layperson to understand, and also completely inhibitive for most people in this county whose income levels are really low. Like having people have to put down an escrow or have to pay expensive permit fees is really restrictive for some of us more low income and younger people in this county that are just trying to come up. I don't know if you know what it's like to be in your 20s in this country right now. It's fucking difficult. And we are trying our best to build something better for the future, and creating more regulation and more restrictions for people like us who are the future, who are trying to protect our country, is really not helping us. And I know you guys don't have to deal with the country that I'm going to have to deal with, but you're creating the future for us. And we have to have a say because we're the ones that are going to live it.
That's all of the people that have signed up to speak. And we'll take a 5-minute recess and then we'll come back to use the bathroom. So we'll come back in 5 minutes. We have one more person that wants to speak.
Good evening. My name is Lori Mitchell and I'm from Paonia. And I want to thank each one of you because last year was, what a wild ride. It was coming to this meeting last year and wanting to oppose the 2021 land use code. And I've been to a lot of the meetings that you guys have held, a lot of the working sessions, and have watched and listened to all of the work that has gone into the land use code and working with the constituents, getting the feedback from people, having people send emails. And I, like the last person that spoke, I went through, we've been really busy this year, which we're really grateful for. And the land use code is still so very long. And I know that we need a code. I get that. I'm very clear with the fact that, you know, we don't want somebody building a chicken house right next door to us. We want to make sure that things are manageable and there are rules. But to have it be so incredibly long still after all of this time, and to have some of the things still not real clear, and I apologize, I don't have all the info because I didn't plan to speak tonight, but I did want to say how much we appreciate you guys being there and for what you're doing. Because I know from seeing and being a part of those meetings that you're doing a lot of work. And I don't think you're appreciated for that as much as you should be. But I also know that there are a lot of people that have concerns about how hard it is to understand. And I don't know the solution, but I feel like there is a solution. There still can be a way to bring it down, to make it easier to understand and to read. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay, we'll close the input from the public concerning the land use code for 2024.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, Commissioner Supis.
Okay, so we listened to everybody tonight. A few things, I took some notes. First of all, the drone policy. Okay, we have adopted a drone policy that the only way that the drone can be flown is if it is with the permission of the property owner. This has proven very beneficial in helping clean up properties. We have used this to help with flooding. This is a tool that is very beneficial, but it will only be flown over a property with that property owner's permission, and that is in policy. This code does not enact building codes. Okay, I think there might have been some misconceptions here. There is nothing from stopping you from building whatever house you want. What you need is a septic system. You need an access address. Well, I'm sorry, that's life. We have opened up home business. We have one of the most lenient home business codes in the state of Colorado. There was talk about traffic studies. We've got curvy roads. We got roads on hills. We can't just willy-nilly allow somebody to put in a driveway in a bad spot. It's just not going to work. We can't willy-nilly allow somebody to put 50 homes on a single driveway that's in an unsafe location on a road. That would be unsafe. Okay, this isn't a means to try to stop you from enjoying your property and doing what you want with your property. But you have neighbors and other residents that need to be kept in mind, especially when it comes to safety. Couple comments about solar, okay? I don't think any of you would have wanted us to allow a solar farm unless there was going to be some escrow or some bonding to make sure that that project gets cleaned up in the end. Okay, we can't have it both ways. You know, we have to be able to protect. And I'm sorry if, you know, I'm sorry if anarchy is what you wanted, it's not gonna happen. I've taken a lot of abuse up here tonight. I think I can laugh a little bit if I want. Okay, thanks, Jacob. You know, I'm not addressing. So we have spent a lot of time and effort on this code. I have fought harder than most to maintain property rights in this county. Some of these issues, Eli and I, we've sat down and talked, and we've had to agree to disagree. Because I can point out places in this county where we need a regulation to stop a problem. Hopefully not. So we are, like I said, we're not going to make everybody happy. Came up with that right at the beginning. So thank you very much.
I got nothing to add.
No, the comments have been closed, sir.
Could you all at some point just say thank you for that we all attended and spoke? I've never heard from you all. Thank you for coming.
I did that at the beginning,
At the
sir.
beginning, we all thanked you all for coming. We appreciated you coming. Okay. Well,
We
thank-
will continue discussion of this. What is the will of the board?
I'm going to move that the board adopt resolution number 2024-R-03, a resolution amending zoning maps to rezone all properties zoned UGA to RSE-1. 2, to adopting the 2024 land use code update. 3, vacating resolution 2003-R-017, resolution requiring a review of street plan in 35-acre plus subdivisions. And 4, vacating resolution 2023-R-07, renewable energy moratorium.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion between the board? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you for coming. Drive carefully going home. Be courteous in your driving. Have a good evening.
Go ahead and end.